Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Lazy Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Sam Priestley, and today we're going to be talking with my lovely wife, Emma, about her home business, Emma's Nomad Kitchen, which is a supper club that we run, that she runs from our home. What is a supper club? A supper club is a dinner party where people pay to come. So it's like having a restaurant from your home. So every couple of weeks, you will invite 8 strangers. Or rather, you'll sell tickets to 8 strangers who will then have a 3-course meal plus canapes and a welcome drink and tea and coffee and stuff like that. So paint a picture for us. What is it like going to one of your supper clubs?
Typically you won't know who's going and you definitely won't know what the menu is. I think people tend to be quite nervous as they come in the door. So I always welcome them with a drink and a canapé, and we always sit upstairs in the living room, which we've got a giant sofa. It's quite comfortable. I like to think people can get to know each other, and then we come downstairs and sit down at the dining table, and then I start with a starter and finish with truffles and tea and coffee. People expect a social, so they expect to meet new people, they expect to try different food, and have a good time. It's fun.
And people don't normally expect you to eat with them. No,
which I do, because part of it for me is, as I said, getting that instant feedback, that gratification, but also meeting new people.
Yeah.
Finding people to go for coffee with, go for brunch with on the weekends, whatever.
Yeah. And it is a business. It's something that makes you money.
Yep.
You have about a 50% margin, so you make about £150 a go, and you do it every couple of weeks. So it's not a big business, but it is a little one, and it has all the makings of something that could then grow or change or adapt into something else.
Yeah, and it's a good platform to test ideas.
Exactly, yeah. So
whether that's verbally or on the plate or a drink or whatever.
Yeah, so if you wanted to start a restaurant, this is a nice way to start. Rather than going the full stretch and opening one, you can start by having it in your home with just 8 guests. Then you can start hosting it in other venues outside your home which could have more guests. You can slowly build it up. You can do from once a fortnight to once a week. And then eventually, once you know it's going to work out, you can then move to that step of getting a big loan and finding a location and turning it into a proper restaurant.
Yeah, and also you can use it as a bit of consumer research. So you could use it to launch a product. So, for example, our gin. We could have used the supper clubs initially to test out different versions of our flavour and get an idea of, customer feedback. Do they like the product? Do they like the branding? Yeah,
or if you were serving a sauce that people liked,
you can
start bottling that and selling it. And that's something, if you did decide to start doing that, that's then something you could then do from your own home.
Yes.
So you could start making the sauce yourself, putting in pots in it. Then once it got popular enough, you could then find a factory who could then take your recipe and make it in mass and build it up all slowly, kind of bootstrapping it. I think I can sometimes be a bit rude about businesses that you start from your bedroom, especially when you're doing a lot of the work yourself, because of there's not much scalability there.
Yeah.
So if you are doing, let's say you've got a t-shirt business where you do designs on t-shirts and you kind of screen print it and you put it on, and as you get an order and you go down the post box and you post it. But I'm only rude about those because people don't often think ahead at the beginning, and they put themselves into a corner where they can't afford to not do all the work themselves.
Yes, they can't scale up easily.
They can't scale up. Whereas if in fact it was the other way around and they were just testing something out, but then with the price and everything in mind that you had in your mind that this could turn into something better, I'm a really big fan of it.
Mm.
And actually the reason I want to talk about it is not because I want people to start a supper club, but because doing these sort of businesses from your home is probably much easier than what most people think.
Oh, yeah.
I think a supper club is a good one because it is serving food. And so I think people think that there needs to be, there's loads of laws around it. Like you need to have a certain type of kitchen. You need to be in an industrial place.
And lots of people ask as well.
Lots of people ask. And I think there is this idea that it's a little bit illegal.
Yeah.
So when people come, they think, "Oh,
Is this right?
This is a bootleg restaurant." Well, actually, that's not the case. Like, you have, your 5-star food hygiene rating. You've been inspected by the council. Didn't cost you anything. You just sort of signed up online. You had to do like a 1-day course,
which I could have done online, but chose to do it at a council building so I could meet people.
Yeah. We got a blog post on exactly how, all the legal steps you need, which you can read in the show notes or on sampriestley.com.
Yeah, and that is pretty much it. It's not that much more.
That's pretty much it. It's really
very
simple.
Straightforward. Yeah.
It gets more complicated if you're serving alcohol or selling alcohol. But apart from that, it's quite straightforward.
Yeah. And that's all you need.
That's all you need for that supper club.
To set up.
Yeah. There we go. I've got it written down here. You must register your supper club with the local council. You should do it at least 28 days before starting. Once registered, you'll be inspected by the Food Standards Agency. And then by law, you also need that anyone handling food for the supper club must be adequately trained.
Yeah.
And that can mean a bunch of things, but generally you can go and do a food hygiene course. So Emma did a level 2 course. You can take the course online and do the exam online, and it costs £25. And that's it. That's all the legal requirements.
Yeah.
At a total cost of £25 to run in a food-related business from your home.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple, right? You don't need to create a business. You can do it as self-employed, as a sole trader. You don't even need to declare your earnings unless you're earning above a certain amount. It's one of these gig economy things where it's quite easy to get going. Now, let's say we were making sauces, packaging up and selling them. Yeah, there's probably a few more things got to do with that, but it's not going to be that complicated. It's going to be, fairly straightforward, and it's something you can do. So you were quite nervous about doing a supper club, weren't you?
Very nervous.
Why was that?
Because people were paying for my food, and I'm not. I haven't had any training in terms of. I'm not a professional chef. I'm a home cook, so I was really nervous that my food wasn't good enough, and people wouldn't want to pay.
Yeah,
I'm putting myself out there.
You had imposter syndrome, which is the term for thinking you're a fraud, that you shouldn't be doing this, that you need to be a professional in order to have a restaurant, basically.
Yeah, I suppose really it was I didn't think I was good enough.
Yeah,
I didn't think I was faking it.
Well, that's what I mean by imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I know.
You don't think you're good enough to do this. You don't think you're a professional.
Yeah.
You put everyone else on a pedestal. And people get that in everything. People get it in sport, where they feel like even though they're world champion, they still think they're not actually that good and they're going to get caught out one day. And in business as well. So, for instance, with the gin, when we started the gin business, people said, "Well, what right do you have to make gin?
Yeah.
What qualifications do you have to make gin?" We don't have any qualifications, just a love of gin and a lot of experimentation and research and self-learning.
Yeah.
Likewise with your supper club. What qualifications do you have in order to be a chef?
Yeah, I don't.
You don't, but you do have a passion and research and
lots of practice.
Lots of courses, lots of practice, all that kind of stuff. And the truth is, you're not starting a restaurant, you're starting a supper club, which is a one day every now and again. You don't have that many guests. You're not trying to compete with the Michelin-starred restaurant in central London. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different thing.
I think it's really interesting, this whole thing of like being a professional and having the qualifications. I met someone recently who's is a cocktail blogger. So she creates cocktails. She's got a big following on Instagram. And we met for a drink, and she was explaining what her previous history was. And one of the roles she had was, her kind of main role was a big kind of advertising marketing role in London. And after that, she became a life coach. And she went from kind of a professional background to something that was a bit more of a softer skill. So she did all these courses, she paid loads of money, and she was a life coach. And then she said, and then I decided I wanted to focus on drinks, and now I'm doing the cocktail blog. I said to her, "Oh, so did you do any qualifications in mixology or catering or anything like that?" She said, "No, of course not." And I said, "So why? What was the difference?" So I thought that was really interesting. She didn't have an answer. I don't think anyone had ever called her out on that.
Yeah.
And it called her out as a bit of a mean term for it, because obviously I don't think she needs to. She's great at her job. But I think that whole thing of you need to have this whole bank of qualifications and rules to be able to do something professionally.
Yeah.
As in get paid for it.
Yeah, and I think it is that part, the get paid for it, isn't it? While she's a cocktail blogger and it's a hobby.
Oh no, she gets paid she gets sponsored by brands all the time. It's a very good income for her.
Well, now she does, but when she started, she was just a hobbyist cocktail blogger.
Yeah.
And the proof is in that she got popular. We call it the amateurisation of industries, or the democratisation of industries, that a lot of the gatekeepers of these things are disappearing. And now anyone can kind of go and do it, and then the ones who survive are the ones who are good, rather than the ones with all the qualifications.
Yeah, which is great. It's all about how good you are, your new ideas, and how creative you are.
Yeah. The downside is we get it with authors and books, and the rise of self-publishing is that there's no quality check.
Yeah.
So it could be that someone who can only cook a ready meal, like if I started the supper club, it'd be terrible. But there's no one telling me I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I could start a supper club and it'd be rubbish and I'd get loads of bad reviews. The barrier to entry is really low, but that means anyone can do it. So that's one downside. But the plus side is that people who are truly passionate about it, like you, can end up, doing it and rising to the top. And it kind of sidesteps all the nonsense about, what school you went to, whether you're a man or a woman, what colour you are. Like, it's all totally down to you.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. Yeah, why not just go and do it? Why not just go and try something out? A supper club is a thing, but there's no reason why you can't do other things from your home. We could do gin tasting. We could do, yoga. We could do any...
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, there's always any huge scope for the type of things we could run. I was thinking, the perfect supper club is a mixture of social interaction. You're going there to meet people. The food, it's good food. And also an experience. They're often themed in some way.
Yeah.
Something that you get that you wouldn't get elsewhere. But you can fit some of those things in, and take the food out and just experience the social, and you can do all sorts of things. You could do dance classes. You could do
you could do tour of Tunbridge Wells. You could do I could do a bar crawl that people paid for.
Yeah.
There's.
Yeah, and in fact, the supper club's one of the harder ones to do because of the food hygiene stuff around it.
Yeah.
I think people worry a little bit about their legal liability. What happens if someone gets hurt in my business and I get sued? You can understand why people ask, because especially if you read the news or you plugged into a bit into American culture, that concept of suing people.
Yeah, and especially at the moment within the food and drink industry about allergens. So, for example, what's happened with Pret, and
if they said it was allergen free and it wasn't.
Yeah, and then people are voting with their feet. They're not going to Pret because of it.
Yeah,
I think that particularly in food could really put people off.
Yeah. You almost don't want to get into it in case something bad happens.
Yeah.
But, there are insurance you can get for that, and these are really unlikely things to happen anyway. I get that is a worry, but it's the same worry you have when starting any business, but it's at a lesser scale because it's from your home, because it's small scale. So would you recommend starting a supper club?
Yeah, absolutely love it. I love the creative side of it. So I like picking the menus. I like posting pictures on social media and getting comments. I like the instant feedback. People trying the food and saying they really like it. And wanting the recipes, which I give them at the end. And I like the social side of it. So meeting people I would never normally meet. Particularly for us, because we both work from home. We don't have a big pool of new people we're meeting all the time. So it's great. And it's people all different ages, from late 20s to 80s. I think it just makes for a really interesting evening, and no two are alike. I love the variety of it. And not just because I do different menu every time, but the mix of people are always different. Yeah, I love it. Recommend it to anyone.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. A supper club is what I'd describe as an experience based business that you can run from your home or in your local town. There are an almost infinite number of different types of experienced businesses that you could run, Supper Club being just one of them and one that we have experience with. And it's really easy to set up, make a bit of money. It's a good place to trial ideas for businesses you might want to scale and grow to something else. It's a good thing to do if you're just looking to earn a bit of extra income while at the same time meeting people from the local area or being a bit social. And the best thing is I think it's really easy to set up. Anything else to add?
I'd like to do a shout out to my friend Mai, who I would love her to set up a supper club. She's planning to do a Maldivian supper club in London. I'm really trying to encourage her to do her first paid one. We went to a test one a couple of months ago and the food was amazing. So big shout out to her. Lots of encouragement.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thanks for listening. And if you have any feedback, you can reach me at hello@samprecy.com. Emma's Supper Club is called Emma's Nomad Kitchen. You can find it on Facebook. Goodbye.
Bye.